listeners, and welcome to today's edition of the Peggy Smedley Show. As always, I'm your host, Peggy Smedley. So today I'm going to be asking a very critical question about the future of business. How is artificial intelligence reshaping senior leadership? Now, last month we looked at entry-level workers and middle management, but today I want to look at senior leaders. For decades, senior leaders have been, let's say, responsible for setting strategy, I would say defining vision, allocating resources, and maybe even driving all of that transformation we've been talking about. But today, that role is changing, and I would even say it's changing very fast. Artificial intelligence, though, is not just a tool for operations. It's a force that's redefining what it means to lead at the highest level. And we're going to talk all about how AI is changing work. But we do not talk enough about how it is changing leaders. And that is what we're going to discuss on the podcast today. So on this segment, I'm going to explore how AI is reshaping senior leadership and what it means for the future of work for all of that leadership level that we're talking about. So settle in, we have a lot to unwrap. So I guess let's get started. Talking about AI and the senior leader. I've been thinking a lot about this. In AI, what do we say? AI is everywhere. It's in our products, it's in our operations, it's in our customer service, and it's in our decision-making process. But here's the challenge that I've been thinking a lot about. Many senior leaders are still struggling, as I would say all of us, to turn AI into real business value. So research shows the challenge is not the technology, it's really all of us, the people who are at that senior level. In fact, a 2026 survey found that 93% of global AI and data leaders identified human factors as the primary barrier to adoption. Now, what's the surprise? Now, this is all according to Harvard Business Review. So to understand these dynamics in practice, the Positive Group conducted an in-depth qualitative study with senior leaders from large global organizations across, let's say, professional services, large global organizations across professional services, financial services, consumer brands, aviations, life sciences, and I guess a bunch of others, but you guess that's the cross-section of them all. So this research explored how leaders are experiencing AI adoption. Now, several leaders contrasted AI adoption with previous large-scale transformations. Now, I don't think any of this is unusual, but think about this for a second. Unlike episodic initiatives, new systems, restructures, or operating model shifts, AI is causing continual disruptions with no clear endpoint. Now, this doesn't surprise me because if you listen to a lot of the executives talk, large corporations, they say you have to learn fast, learn again, keep learning, and the pace is just ongoing. So in practice, organizations are faced with two pressures: on demand to move quickly and an absence of shared criteria for success. So if you think about that, pressure is constant. So leaders found themselves managing uncertainty about what constituted meaningful value. Yet leaders remain confident in AI's potential because there's so much about the unknown and innovation and all these other things. So what does all of this mean? That's the question I want you to ponder for just a second. Before I start continuing on, just for a second, ponder that. Senior leadership is under intense pressure because AI is not just an initiative. Okay, think about it. It's not just an initiative. It is a business transformation. It requires a different kind of senior leader. Now, not everybody is designed to be this type of leader. So let's talk a little bit more about what this senior leader might look like. And are you that person? So first, They must become orchestrators of human and AI work. Now, think about this again. This is a big shift. Leaders are no longer just managing people. We're not just talking about people here. They're managing systems, algorithms, and increasingly, leaders are also managing AI agents that act on their own. Now, McKinsey calls this the agentic organization, where teams are made up of humans and digital workers, and leaders must coordinate both of them. Now, this requires new thinking, new governance, and new models of accountability. Because when AI is making decisions or taking actions, someone must still own all the outcomes. You can't just say, well, that's AI's fault. And typically that someone, again, is that senior leader. So here's my question. Are you that senior leader? All right, so second, senior leaders must drive real transformation, not just experimentation. So leaders need to move beyond, you've heard it many times before, pilot purgatory. Got to move beyond pilot purgatory. So the hard reality is, McKinsey says, nearly 2/3 of organizations haven't yet scaled AI beyond a few pilot projects. Now, the interesting part of this, we hear everybody's having success. Oh, at least that's the talk. That's a bunch of BS. We are still struggling. We're going back to what I've been saying all along. Let's go back to the M2M, IoT. We need to put all that together before we can have real success with all these AI projects. So also, no more than 1 in 10 report an AI agent usage, making it past the pilot stage within a specific business function. Now think about that. So this is a big challenge. Senior leaders need to scale AI. They need to integrate it into core processes and deliver measurable results. Now we're back to all of that, measurable. Now what does that mean? It means a lot of things to a lot of different people. This means making very hard choices. Senior leaders must rethink business models and redesign how work gets done, how it's performed. It's a tricky one. Because if you think about it, AI does not create value on its own, as much as we like to think so. It creates value when it is embedded into the business. Now that's the tricky part. People and culture have always determined transformation success. Senior leaders must keep this in mind. All right, let's go to the third one. Senior leaders must navigate the great flattening that we've talked about. This great flattening, it's an interesting concept. We're seeing organization reduce layers of management. It's happening everywhere. AI is making it possible for leaders to oversee larger teams, making faster decisions, and operate with fewer intermediaries. Okay, we get that. McKinsey suggests, again, AI could remove multiple layers between the CEO and the front line. Okay, we get that too. But this changes the role, again, of the senior leader. So we need to understand that. They will become closer to the work, closer to the customer, and more directly engaged with the entire team. So now, there's a lot more empathy involved in a lot of this, but it also increases their span of control and their responsibility. So this now takes me to the fourth point. Senior leaders must develop new capabilities. Not just technical understanding, but now I just mentioned earlier, empathy, human skills. Human skills. Because as AI takes over analysis and execution, the human component becomes more important than ever. Ever before. These are the things AI cannot replace, and they are the things that will define great leadership in an AI era. So, now I give you my last point here. Finally, senior leaders must build all this trust we talk about. Trust in AI, trust in the data, and most importantly, trust across the organization. Trust in collaboration with all the partners. Because without trust, adoption will fail and transformation will stall very quickly. So this comes to my opinion for today. The biggest risk is not that AI will replace senior leaders, and that's what we all have been getting nervous about. We need to rethink and reevaluate and consider this. It is that senior leaders will not evolve fast enough because they're not catching on enough. Because right now we're seeing a gap and it's widening because we're not understanding a gap between what AI can do and what leaders are prepared to do with it. And that gap is where value is lost. That is where projects fail. This is where investments fall short. And this is where competitive advantage is won and lost. So we need to change the conversation. We need to change the conversation right now. We need to stop asking whether leaders will need to understand AI, and we need to start asking how deeply they need to understand it. Because the answer is clear. Doesn't seem to be, but they need to understand it enough to lead with it. It's a big difference. It might not seem to be, but it is. So here's my tip. Redefine what leadership looks like in your organization. Start with AI literacy at the top. Make sure your leaders understand not just what AI is, but how it creates value. It's creating value, where it can fail, and how it should be governed. Next, focus on the execution, not just get stuck in pilots. Identify high impact use cases. Scale what works, because value comes from implementation, not experimentation. Third, build a human AI operating model. Define how humans and AI will work together in companionship, how it makes decisions, how and who are accountable, and how performance will be measured. Clarify, be very critical here. This is so critical. And I would say lastly, or finally, or however, invest in trust. Communicate clearly, address concerns, and bring employees along on the journey, because AI transformation is not just about technology. It's about the people, and the organizations that get this right will not adopt AI. They will lead with it, and this will set them apart. And this is critical. This will set you apart, and you will be the leaders for years to come. But you got to get it right. You got to get it right now. Okay, leaders, that is all the time we have. Make sure to share and subscribe to our episodes each week. Share your thoughts with me on X at Connect the World, or follow me on LinkedIn and YouTube and continue the conversation there. Please check out our website at connecttheworld.com and our show website at thepeggysmedleyshow.com. Remember, we broadcast live every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Central, or you can hear our podcast every Thursday. All right, this is the Peggy Smedley Show, your voice for our connected world. And remember, with great technology comes great responsibility. Have an awesome week.